This is Jordan Poyer, safety for the Buffalo Bills, and you are now listening to Cover One Buffalo Podcast. Let's go.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo Podcast. You are joining your partners in crime, Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how are we feeling today?
I don't even remember how this feels. 8-3 was 96.
Yeah,
12 years old. I was a 12-year-old in 96. I don't even remember. I was trying to think back, like watching that football season. I was just a kid. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I'm processing it, and I probably won't know until Tuesday.
I was a high school sophomore who thought he knew everything, so not much has changed.
So nothing's
really.
changed.
Yeah, not much has changed really.
The 10-year challenge is still the same guy.
Yeah, same thing. So thank you, everybody. Awesome crowd in the chat already tonight. If you want to come and listen to us record live, be able to chat with us back and forth and take part in that, all you got to do is come be a Cover One Premium subscriber. Come join, listen to what we're doing. Give us a rating, give us a review wherever you're listening. Give us a like, give us a share, tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell the lady in the line at the grocery store, whatever. Tell people about Cover One. Come join us. Tonight, we are sponsored and presented by our presenting sponsor, Uncle Jumbo's. Uncle Jumbo's local vodka, all kinds of good products, bluesberry lemonade. They're very good. The original vodka, all the good things. Can't imagine a better time than to celebrate a game like today and coming into the holidays, stock up on everything you got. Your local liquor provider, you can pick up any of those and be able to have yourself a real good time. And that's what we saw today. I was commenting before the show started here that today was one of those games that kind of started out like, man, we're kind of letting them hang around in this game. It's not really what I like to see. We're dominating them a lot more than what the score shows. This is way worse than 6-0. And then all of a sudden we hit the touchdown pass and then we get the long play to John Brown. And when you look back now, this is one of the most physically dominating box scores I can remember in a long time.
It's going to show up on film too. It's not just going to be in the box score. I think when there's a lot of negativity that surrounds running backs and the running game in modern day football. But I think when you look at a box score and you see 244 to 85 as a rushing total, there's no way that doesn't show up on the film. And I think we're going to see that here this week, that it was a dominate. Usually you have the analytics side and the stat fans and then the film fans, and we all go at it on Twitter. I think it's going to kind of come in line quite a bit here this week, and you're going to see the domination in both aspects because it really was a dominating performance for the Bills. And they're not dominating in the way maybe some of the top tier teams do, where they'll put up 40 in a dominating effort, but a 20-3 victory against a team that a good defense just hasn't been able to really be a winning football team this year. They've been in a lot of games, and they weren't even in this game really at any point.
Yeah, and a topic we've gotten to late in a lot of different shows, but one that you and I care deeply about. I think that it really showed in one of the differentials that we pay most attention to, toxic differential, in that when you have a physical beatdown like this, having a toxic differential of 6-2, where we absolutely took our foot off the gas the entire fourth quarter and could have mowed them down much further if we weren't playing very predictable kind of, run the clock out kind of game with our defense playing so dominatingly. It shows, and it reflected in that we had 5 big plays to their 1 big play. Each team had 1 turnover, and we certainly had, I'm going to say, a half dozen. I wouldn't be shocked if there were 10 nearly interceptable passes on Brandon Allen. They just dominated it from start to finish, from big plays, everything there except for penalties we'll get to in a bit. But just about every other factor, they were in control of this game from the start.
Yeah, and I really think there was a number of balls that were interceptable, but I think you could at least target 3 probable plays that got close to adding to the toxic differential, and Ed Oliver almost had a safety there. Yeah. That was inches away from being a safety. Trey had his hands on one, and Matt Milano had his hands on one, which probably should have been interception. So that toxic differential could have been even more out of control, and who knows what happens in the game. Then maybe then you start having one of those 40 to whatever blowout games if you get a couple of those other turnovers. So total dominating performance. And the only thing that really stands out is that the penalty issues, but still I stand by, even though the Bills had a high percentage of penalties, Denver Broncos probably had the worst penalty on that one of the punts, personal foul after the fact. It put the ball well on the other side of the Bills territory when, that kind of helped bail out the Bills and help secure that win at that point in the game.
And the other one earlier, Dalton Reisner had the 15-yard play where they went from in field goal range to out of field goal range. That was when they had the wind at their back, and that they certainly could have, with McManus being a good kicker, they certainly could have made the field goal there. That 15 yards went from the 35 to the 50. They lost yards on the next play, and then all of a sudden they're out of field goal range and they're punting, and that ended up directly costing them at least a legitimate attempt at a field goal there, where they could have done that in a game where we knew points were going to be tough to come by. We both called the under. We both thought that the Bills would win, but it wasn't going to be a high scoring affair, and that certainly came through. Let's dive right into some of the details here. I thought today was a good game by Josh Allen. I don't know that it was his best game, but besides one throw that kind of slipped, he finally hit on a deep ball. We got a 34-yard air yard throw, and actually it was about 6 or 7 yards deep into the end zone, so probably 40 yards in the air. Finally got one of those completions, 15 of 25 for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception on the one throwaway, had 9 carries for 56 yards and a couple critical pickups on offense. So I think this was a good Josh Allen game. And I think the fact I'm saying that, and that the standard has gotten to the point where a game like this is only good, really speaks to his progress.
Yeah, I mean, again, the entire fourth quarter, they were just kind of, let's get out of here. His stats could have had more inflation to them if they were more aggressive in the fourth quarter. And I'm not knocking the lack of aggressive play in the fourth quarter. I was totally fine just sitting back, enjoying the rest of the afternoon. I didn't need anything crazy to happen. I think this is right in line with how Josh has played since coming back from that New England Patriots game. None of the performances have been statistically fantastic in the box score. Obviously, the interception hurts, but that's going to happen in this league. He wasn't going to break the all-time record or anything crazy for number of plays without an interception. He's going to throw some once in a while. It's going to happen. Didn't bother me. He had a really nice game. Some of the throws that we saw from Josh Allen, even though it doesn't show up in the box score, were great examples of his arm strength. 3rd and 9 to Beasley there.
Oh, dude,
Done that
rifle
with a fastball. There's not a lot of guys that can do that, and that's a great example of his arm strength. He used his legs quite a bit today. We saw a few nice runs with his leg. He had 9 carries, 56 yards. I want to say it was 50-something yards.
9 for 56, yep.
9 for 56. I mean, that's a nice productive day with his legs against the tough defense. These are the things that separates him, and we heard from the Broncos fans all week that they had the better Allen, that their Allen was going to be the difference in the game. And Josh flashed the things that make him such a special prospect and such an intriguing prospect today. And then he flashed the progress, and we'll get into it a little bit more detail later, but he made a lot of smart plays. He got rid of the ball at times. He took sacks when he needed to. They kept the ball moving. He didn't put the ball in a lot of danger. And that's what I like to see, is that additional progress that doesn't show up in the box score.
Absolutely. And like I said, I love the fact that I'm able to say that he had a pretty good game in a game that we probably would have been ecstatic about a year ago. Right. And that's where he's raised the bar, that, kind of a ho-hum performance is still 2 touchdowns, 6.5 yards per carry, really solid, I think right at 66% completion percentage. And the one interception wasn't a bad decision. It was, the ball kind of got away from him in his hand and floated a little bit. That those are physical mistakes that are going to happen on occasion. And when you go 176 consecutive attempts and your first pick is just a ball that kind of fluttered on you, that's not going to be the end of the world. And we'll get to it on defense, but we certainly made up for it without letting that get into it.
And he threw a couple that, when we break down the film, they had their hands on. You're going to have some of those too. I mean, Brandon Allen probably threw 4 or 5, like you said, of those additional ones that could have been picked. Every quarterback has some. End of the day, though, he did a great job moving the ball. I know fans were really frustrated that they started out the game again with 2 drives, 2 field goals, but I'm just never going to be the guy, Greg, that gets frustrated about long scoring drives that end up in points, especially in a game that you and I both felt was going to be a low scoring affair, that whoever's getting points is probably going to, when they got up with the 2 field goals, I felt pretty confident with the way the defense was playing and the way that the offense was moving the ball. I said, man, if they can keep this formula up, this is going to be a good day. So yeah, you want the touchdowns, but the way Allen is moving this offense, and it's not just a one game thing. This has been a trend all year long from the first drive against the Jets that ended in a turnover, they have methodically been able to move the ball down the field without lacking the big plays and getting the ball down the field. And that's a sign of, I know everyone hates Dable, but that's a sign of a good offensive coordinator, and that's a sign of progress from Josh Allen. And those are both things that we should be happy about right now, knowing that the defense can play elite. If you have those things and it can all come together, you can do some fun things.
100%. And I think that this was, in my opinion, one of Dable's best games of the year. I thought that he did a great job keeping them off balance. So, yeah, the people who were out to get him, I think today certainly should have helped cool their jets. So, while we're on the offensive side of the ball, in the passing game, I do think that this was a really nice game from Cole Beasley, caught 6 of his 9 targets, and that they were smart not to test Chris Harris, and that obviously Josh and John Brown did test him one time and got him deep there. But I thought it was great to see them lean into where the weakness of the team was. The weakness was in the nickel, and it was able to get them the ball there. Unfortunately, we saw a couple positive plays, nice 22-yard end around. First, we got a 24-yard catch by Robert Foster, and then a 22-yard end around that he pulled up with a hammy at the end of it. That was a little discouraging. But beyond Cole Beasley, not a ton in the passing game. 7 different guys catching the ball, for the 185 yards that were out there. But overall, a decent game with what they needed, with, like you said, probably a little muted in what could have been accomplished in a tighter game.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a ton of issues. I like that they're spreading the ball around. That continues to be a trend for this team. They're, obviously they rely on John Brown primarily, but in a game like this, that was my big concern. Is you go up against a defense like this that has the ability to take a guy away, what do you do to kind of neutralize that and keep your offensive moving? And we saw Cole Beasley moving chains a few times. That was something I talked about in the pregame. Can Cole Beasley be a guy that helps you move the chains? He did it a few times in this game. John Brown, a thing that goes, I think, unnoticed about a guy that you want to call your wide receiver one is all those guys are going to have a game where somebody else kind of limits them and limits their production. Belichick has made a living out of doing this to teams. But if you aren't getting a lot of production, making the most out of the touches you do get, still having 2 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown shows that you can still be productive even when the team is trying to take you away. And he could have had more. There's probably more on film. He had the drop on a 3rd and long that he had right out on the marker. So he could have had a little bit more production today too. But I think that while his stat line isn't good, I think it's a really nice indicator for John Brown's continued success for this team, because he played up against a really good cornerback today, and he beat him a couple of times, and they connected on at least 1. So
yeah, I've taken enough victory laps on John Brown. I won't beat it to death.
I was trying to set you up, man. I was just putting it on a tee for you. Whatever.
No, he's been fantastic. I love the fact that they didn't have to lean on that today, and that he didn't lead the team in targets for, I'm pretty sure, the first time this year. And that's certainly encouraging to do that, or at least since very early in the season, there might have been one other Beasley did. But
with you taking victory laps, I'll take an L. I know people that out there on Twitter don't think I'll take L's, but I take them all the time. I'll take an L on Devin Singletary because they limited John Brown's production today. And what did they do? The Bills went to their second biggest playmaker. And I was a little hesitant to say, hey, just give this guy whatever, 20 carries a game. I don't know that he's that guy. I'm okay with being hesitant. I'm okay with taking that L because I love being proved wrong when the Bills players are productive. So hats off to Devin Singletary. He had a phenomenal game. It didn't feel like it. When they announced that he had 100 yards, I didn't have the stats up while the game was going, and they're like, Devin Singletary gets to 100 yards. It didn't feel like it. It was more of a traditional workhorse back style of game for him. He broke out a couple, but he really was a workhorse today. And it's nice to see that change in him, because that gives me more confidence that he can be that guy going forward.
No, today was easily the best rushing game of the season for the Bills. The fact that they did that against a incredibly stout, top 5 DVOA defense in the NFL. The Broncos were a dominant run defense and dominant overall defense. They went for 47 carries for 244 yards. To stay at 5.2 yards per clip at 47 carries is incredible. That's not buoyed by some gimme 80-yard run that makes the yards per average look great. And Devin Singletary going 21 carries for 106 yards, where his long carry was 11. Do you want to know what that is? that's very Frank Gore-esque. Like having a game where you're constantly getting positive yards over and over and over again, and at least getting 2, 3, 5, 6. He had so many 7 or 8 yard runs during this game that were just setting up 2nd and 3, converting on 2nd and 5. Those kind of plays make a huge difference. And it was really incredible to watch them physically dominate. And that's, we talked about in the preview show, that was the best possible game plan, game script, flow for this game, was getting the Bills a lead, letting our huge offensive line lean on players like Von Miller, who are better pinning their ears back, and then having a lot of drives and snaps early. I kept harping on that in the cover in the premium Slack channel that, this is going to pay dividends. They are going to be worn out. They're going to be tired. This 17 play field goal drive and 12 play field goal drive and all the snaps we ran in the first half. Hey, I get it. It's only 6-0. It's going to pay dividends. And they smacked him in the mouth the entire second half to be able to pull away. And it just was really incredible to see our run game come together as well as it did today.
I thought it was great, and our friend Nate Gary, I'm going to put him on blast because he talked about the lack of amount of points that the Bills had at halftime, and said that it was an indictment of the people like myself that say the running game does matter in the NFL. And I felt the opposite at the time, but I hesitated on our retweeting him and calling him out. But at the end of the day, I think that it was proof that the run game does matter. They did wear down a really good defense. They neutralized Von Miller in this game, and a lot of that was by running the ball. You neutralized another team's playmaker by running the ball. That's a thing that you do. And in the end of the game, when they had to ice it, they ran a 7-minute drive, I think, to end the game, and they got multiple first downs running the football. Establishing that type of dominance on a team, we talk about a lot. Line of scrimmage matters in the NFL, and in order to run the ball the way they did today, you have to do that. And I think it played to the strengths. Sean McDermott gets a lot of knock for the coach speak and things like that, and saying it's going to be a week-to-week thing. We're going to see the weakness of the team or see our strengths. And I think when you insert Cody Ford into your lineup versus Ty and Secchi, the strength on your offensive line becomes more of a run-dominant offensive line. And I think we saw that today, and they felt it was a strength, and they dominated up front. And they have both the box score and the film and all the stats to prove it.
Yeah, no, I think you've been a huge advocate for winning at the line of scrimmage and hey, it's not sexy and fun, modern, throw it around football, but it still matters. And today reinforced that better than any example we could possibly try to rant about.
Yeah, and it's just a way to win, right? That's I guess my biggest point is there's a lot of ways to win. And I think just the way the Bills have been built with a overall probably mediocre talent, I think it's probably the most conservative way to consistently win. And I think that's going to be their cup of tea until they get more talent.
Yeah. So let's kind of, as we go to pivot over here, one of our new favorite segments has come up from our presenting sponsor, Uncle Jumbo's. As you're going through and enjoying their lovely mix of products, they got their Uncle Jumbo's Berry Good, their Country Lemon, and especially, their American-made, true vodka. You need to enjoy that responsibly. So we thought we would create a segment about the Uncle Jumbo's responsible play of the day. And today was fun because we actually had to debate multiple different opportunities of what we thought were the most responsible plays. And, I'll take one that some fans might not realize, but there were two of them that Josh Allen had that I really liked. And one of them was, that people get a little crazy about some of the hard snap stuff and hard count stuff that they did at the end of the, third quarter. But that's 2 times in a row that they forced teams to take horrible timeouts because they were worried about the alignment and the shifting and jumping off sides. And that, in a game like today, that probably didn't ultimately end up mattering, but getting them to waste a timeout with 2 seconds left in the third quarter is hysterical. And the other one was one that wasn't as, talked about, or it isn't seen as a positive, was the sack that he took early on where there was nobody open. It was rushing around him. He didn't have a great space in the middle of the field and the position he was in to throw it away. And that being able to move forward, make sure we didn't lose yardage, keep us in position to be able to, still kick a field goal and get points there is smart decision-making, even if it's not, fun to do it. In that one is a hard count to get a timeout wasted, and the other one is taking a sack. Those aren't the things you usually think of as positives, but those are certainly good decision-making that I thought were my Uncle Jumbo's responsible play of the day.
Yeah, I love the taking the sack because that shows progress to me. Last year, he runs backwards 15 yards and then gets them out of field goal range.
Brandon Allen did it.
Yeah, and that was a Josh Allen thing that probably frustrated me the most in his rookie year was I can't count the amount of times that he popped them out of field goal range for just turning his back to the defense and trying to make a play, which is fantastic. I don't want to take that away from him, but there's a time and a place, and he showed the ability to have the smarts on that. The one that I picked today, and it's something we talked about, was I think it was on the second scoring drive of the game. They ran a play. It was a play action fake screen. He didn't like the first read on screen. He looked down the field, kind of pump faked, hesitated, didn't like the second read on the play. And then he put the ball out of the back of the end zone. And that is something that I've been wanting to see from Josh Allen in those situations. I think it was second down. It might have been second or third down in that situation. You're in field goal range. Don't do anything crazy. The play didn't work. Dump it, live another down. They get 3 points out of the drive. That's a good progress Josh Allen play. It's not going to show up on the box score anywhere. That's one of those ones you're not going to find on Pro Football Reference, but that has a lot of context to how he's progressing as an intelligent football player, and that matters. It makes all the difference in some of the close games that they're going to face here throughout the rest of the year to have a smart, intelligent guy. And if that game's a lot closer, that play means a lot more.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great choice to be able to do it. And those are the kind of things where we're talking about why Josh Allen has raised the bar, raised his ceiling, has shown a significantly higher ability to have these kind of good, solid games where we don't need him to be a ridiculous hero. We need to have a couple awesome scrambles and a couple great third down converting hero ball throws. But that he realizes he can play within himself to still accomplish those things. And I think that's really encouraging. Flipping over to the other side of the ball is really fun because this was a dominant defensive performance. When you go back and realize that we just held a team to 49 net yards passing and 85 yards rushing, that is absolutely unbelievable. 134 yards of total offense is crazy. 4 sacks on Brandon Allen, 1 interception, and what could have probably been 5 interceptions, multiple quarterback hurries and quarterback hits and pressures. Today was the most dominant defensive performance start to finish of the entire season. They hit 1 play action rollout to Cortland Sutton on their first drive that kind of got me a little antsy. And other than that, they completely dominated them the rest of the game. And I just thought today was an incredible defensive performance from start to finish.
It was unreal. And the only thing keeping this from being a shutout was Ed Oliver's stupid penalty. It really was. This game would have been a shutout. I had no doubt about that. If he doesn't commit that penalty, I think they really do shut this team out. And that would have been really fun to have had for this defense to have a shutout under its belt this year. They did a phenomenal job. One of the best things about Tre'Davious White is the clutch factor that he has. I don't care about the number of interceptions he gets. It's when he gets them. You saw the one in the Miami game and then the strip in the Miami game. And then this one, that was a game-changing moment. I felt like Denver was going to score one way or another. And I felt like they were moving to get the ball in the end zone. And it felt like they were about to score a touchdown. And they would have taken the lead at that point.
It was 6-0. That was a one-score game.
Point, dominating them up into that point, and that is a very Bills thing where you're dominating a team up to that point. And I'm sitting here bragging that they got 2 scores out of field goals, and then the team comes down and takes the lead headed into half. But instead, Tre'Davious White makes a good play. He reads the quarterback. Terrible throw by Allen. I'm not saying Tre'Davious White made the best play in the world, but he just seems to always come up with a clutch play to keep the defense going, to get the ball back for this team. So unreal by him. They dialed up more pressures again. I really think they have 2 guys right now, though, just playing at an all-pro level, and maybe 3, but he'll never get that recognition because the box score doesn't show it. But Jordan Poyer, Matt Milano, and Tre'Davious White are playing phenomenal football right now, and they don't get enough credit in the national media, and I hope that starts to change from the people that watch the film and put that stuff out there. Your Brian Baldniggers and them.
Oh, yeah. It was just incredible. Cortland Sutton had 8 targets today. He caught 1 ball for 27 yards on 8 targets. That's incredible.
Trey got his hands on a couple.
Oh, yeah. He almost had 2 pick sixes late there in the fourth quarter to be able to go through that. And just setting them up there, the pressure we had consistently from the defensive line, 2 sacks from Shaq Lawson, a sack from Star Latuile, a sack from Ed Oliver, and what could have been multiple sacks from Ed Oliver. Kind of a quiet game from Jerry Hughes, which was odd. But I think they were able. I'm curious to see when the snap count comes out, if because of what he's been kind of nursing here his way, did we maybe dial that back in the second half and save him a little bit? I'm curious to see how that shakes out after the game.
Yeah, and honestly, they probably, I know people get frustrated with Jerry Hughes' production sometimes, but when you watch film of the Buffalo Bills and you look at the defensive line outside of the recent uptick in blitzing, you probably look at the Bills' defensive line and say, all right, same like we did with the Denver. If we can neutralize Von Miller, I think a lot of teams are just trying to neutralize Jerry Hughes, and they assume, you know what, if the other guys, if Shaq Lawson's going to beat us, so be it. I want to neutralize Jerry Hughes. I don't want him to be the one that beats us. And I think you're probably seeing his success historically with this team and with Sean McDermott. They're probably saying, you know what, we don't want him moving the quarterback off our spot. So you're going to see a lot of teams pushing their effort towards limiting him. But I think it's probably this week was probably a mix of both things, that he's still lingering that injury. I wouldn't be surprised if snap counts down, but when he's on the field, you got to believe that they have a plan to try to limit his production.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure when we go back and watch it and the All-22 comes out, I'll see that he was influencing plenty of those pressures that we saw Star and Oliver and Shaq end up with. So I'm sure that'll be a piece of it. I thought this was one of the most sound tackling games we've had all season. That's been a harp I've had on the difference between when we go from being a good defense to an elite or dominant defense is the quality of our tackling technique and the way that they were able to handle that today. And just constantly the first guy's taking him down, able to do those things. Heck, the biggest mistake you brought up was where Tremaine Edmonds had a tremendous tackle where he was pulling Royce Freeman backwards, and Ed Oliver came to jump in the pile and, hit him helmet to helmet during that. But beyond that, I thought that today was really, really sound, and that we'll get into it here in a second. But beyond the penalties, it was a really, really clean game by the defense, constantly getting off the field. I thought that they brought a little bit less pressure than they did against Miami, but I still thought there was more than we saw on average early in the season. So I'm glad to see that we were still dialing up some blitzes and at least some exotic confusion on which 4 guys were coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nate Geary tweeted it out when I was talking about how fun it is to watch both Milano and Taron Johnson. And Taron had some really nice tackles today, and Milano did too. But it's a very different defense with those 2 healthy playing in this defense. And there's a little bit of a stretch there where we didn't have a healthy Matt Milano. I think he's fully back healthy. And there was a stretch where Taron Johnson was not healthy, and I think he's fully back healthy. And I think you're seeing the change in them getting kind of their swagger back leading into this tough stretch coming up here. It's a really nice time to build 2 back-to-back performances where you've kind of built up back some of your confidence from a rough 3 weeks of football, and this defense has their swagger back, their tackling sound, they're playing fundamental defense. And I think toe-to-toe they can go with any defense in the league or up against any offense in the league when they're playing fundamental, sound tackling, playing within the defense. I really think that they give us a shot in every game. So it's good to see them build confidence here over the last 2 weeks. We've got some tough challenges coming up.
Yep. So, and now the third phase of the game, I think a lot of people are assuming that we had a poor special teams game. And I honestly don't think we did. I think that it just got confusing because we, again, had really negative special teams penalties. We didn't give up any crazy returns.
No. Andre Roberts had a pretty nice day.
Yeah, Andre Roberts had multiple nice games. The man is morally opposed to fair catching the football, which is a little kamikaze for me, but is awesome when he turns it into an aggressive play and he holds on to the ball. So
yeah, he hasn't proven it wrong yet.
Yeah, I can't really ask for more than that. Hauschka hit both field goals. He hit both extra points. And
it was a windy day down there today.
Oh yeah, nasty conditions. And now you're talking about that's 11 straight kicks for him coming off of his worst game. People are going to give Corey Bojorquez a hard time because of the numbers on his punts. He had 4 punts for 127 yards, where you're not even talking about 35 yards a punt. Sounds bad. Tons of those were in the second half where we were trying to let our defense just pin their ears back. So all 4 of those were inside the 20. None got brought back for a touchback. None were able to be returned. So being able to have that combination where it came together in every single one, netting us inside the 20 to be able to, kind of stop it from happening, is able to kind of keep that in line, and being able to, avoid that, I think is better than what people realize his game was. But again, multiple penalties on the special teams here that really took away from what could have been an overall dominant game.
Yeah, and Borges is still a young guy. I think he's refining, becoming an NFL punter still in front of our eyes. It's a lot harder. I don't know a whole lot about punting, so you'd have to ask some of the more punting professionals here.
I've seen some on Twitter. I've seen some.
But it's a lot harder to punt, I think, from the field position that they were punting from a lot of the game. They were punting from around midfield a lot of the game. That takes a little more touch and accuracy. It's hard to pin that inside the 10. I thought he had a nice day, especially with the way the wind was blowing. It doesn't affect all aspects of the game when you're in the bowl, but it definitely affects the punts. The punts travel up high. That's where the wind's going to be affected the most. You saw some wind affecting both punters a little bit. I thought he had a nice game. He kept them.
He did what he was asked.
He did what he was asked. He didn't blow anybody away, but he's not going to blow you away except for when you're on your 20 and he can boom something and way out kick his coverage. That's where he's going to really impress you with his leg. Other than that, he didn't do anything stupid. We didn't see any big shank punts. But yeah, I thought the special teams did a really good job today as far as the majority of the problems I've had with special teams so far this year. But then they go and do the thing that I've actually been happy about, is commit the penalties. And special teams penalties are my least favorite. When they say half the distance to the goal and your offense is backing up and walking back, it's one of the most defeating feelings to start a drive. Luckily, the Buffalo Bills offense has been able to put together long drives this year, so I feel a little better than I have in the past. But man, those are the most demoralizing penalties sometimes, it feels like.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough, and we're nitpicking when you're talking about a 20-3 dominating performance where we controlled just about every aspect of the game. But the reason this wasn't a 37-3 game was because of those penalties. If we avoid some of those and we end up coming out with a few of those in that manner of being able to figure out, keeping the drive extended or getting a touchdown instead of a field goal or converting on a few of those things, it makes a much bigger difference. And that's the, high-end dominating game that we end up with, like the 37 points last week. Those are some of the tougher things to be able to accomplish and be able to, really step out there. Like you mentioned, some of the upper echelon teams who do truly put their foot on the throat and be able to make that the dominant game it needs to be. But even with that, even with some of the conservative special teams and the decisions to punt, we did punt from midfield, 48, Denver's 48, Denver's 41, Denver's 41. But on the last drive of the game, we ran the last 7 minutes of the clock off minutes off the clock with a 10-play clock killing, demoralizing drive. That's about all you can ask from a game.
And that's not the first time that has happened for the Bills this year. They did that against Tennessee too. It wasn't as long. I think it was like a 4 or 5 minute drive to kill the game. That ability to have that in your back pocket where you feel like, all right, we're just going to put this game away and they're not going to get the ball back. That is a fantastic ability to have. It's so frustrating for the other side of the field to not be able to stop a team as they just run out and get into victory formation.
Oh, as I was going through my little parade of pettiness on Twitter after the game, the fact that a team let us kneel the ball out with 2 timeouts in their pocket just to make the pain stop, that's as embarrassing of a loss as you get in the NFL. That is take another team's manhood. That's as bad as it gets. They didn't even use their timeouts because they just wanted it to be over. Yeah. You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, no, I loved every minute of it. I know fans probably got frustrated with the way that game ended. There wasn't really any action for the entire fourth quarter. I was sitting back, leaned back on my couch with the biggest freaking smile on my face, just watching it all happen, mostly because all the crap Broncos writers, bloggers, media, and their fans were talking this week. I wanted this win more than anything, to do it in such a dominating fashion and just soaking all that pettiness in that I'm about to spew on Twitter the rest of the night. I was so excited for that.
Yeah, no, you can't. And they did ask for it. And multiple people brought it up and really kind of stockpiled a treasure trove of nasty things that Broncos fans were saying. And it was just the weirdest combination of cockiness from a 3-7 team that, like, don't get me wrong, we openly admitted that these teams are a lot more similar than the records were, but the Bills were winning and they were pulling these things out, and it's at home and they deserve to be, favored. And then we come out and just stomp on them, and there's so many cold takes being retweeted out there that it's going to be a long day and long week for Broncos fans to have to ride this out. I think they're lucky that the Bills play on Thursday and that we're going to have to switch gears pretty quickly. So that's going to be an interesting way to try to avoid that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time to spend this week, unfortunately, on proving how right we were. It's going to be a fun little bit of jest back and forth here for the rest of the night. We've had it with a few fan bases, but they definitely deserve it. But it's a quick turnaround, man. Yeah. And we're kind of got it on in the background now, this Cowboys game. And this is probably my least favorite thing about the NFL schedule. And obviously, Thursday, the Thanksgiving games have always existed, but man, I hate quick turnaround weeks. And we got a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later this week when we go to it, but it is going to be interesting, and at least both teams are having to travel from the East Coast back to Dallas this week. Let's kind of get things wrapped up here with a couple of our other segments. I think I made a little bit of a comeback in our wagers here.
Yeah, you made some progress here today. You won 4 out of the 5 bets that we had, drawing yourself closer. Here you're now within a 4-point swing, so that's a 1-bet swing. We do a lot of 4-point bets. I got the 1 win on the 18.5 for the Bills scoring. Obviously, they scored for 20, so I got the over there. I got 3 points, and you got 10 points total. You had the under 115 yards on the ground. The Bills dominated them in their rushing offense. You had the under 13.5. You won that by 10.5. Wasn't even close.
Yeah, that was a nice dominated one.
The one that surprised me, though, like I felt like those ones were pretty good bets for you. I really didn't think that the Bills with Cody Ford to be able to hold Von Miller to 0.5 sacks. They neutralized Von Miller entirely in that game. I barely even saw the guy. He had a couple of pressures, nothing crazy. So you got a nice point there, and then by 3 yards you picked up an extra point because I think Nick
got me a point. I'll take it.
Nick gained you a point there, so you got the extra point on first.
Yeah, the rookie tight end battle. By 11 yards to 14 yards.
11 to 14 yards. Oh man, Cowboys are blowing this away. Sorry. So you ended up drawing back within 4 points. I'm up 48 to 44. I gotta. I'm a better team, and I can't let you just hang around in this thing. I got to blow you.
It's what happens. It's what happens. You got to step on the throat when you have a chance.
Yeah.
Let's get into our final segment, Gruntled versus Disgruntled. Again, today is a great kind of game for that kind of thing where it's hard to be able to identify who had a bad game and then to pick out the only people who had a good game. So let's start on the negative side so we could finish on a positive. I kind of copped out and took the team discipline as my disgruntled, that in a game where we could have really just destroyed them on the scoreboard, where national fans see, oh my gosh, they put up 40-3 or 40-0 again without that Oliver penalty. Those 12 penalties took away what could have been I won't say historic, but a really, season defining dominant game from a scoreboard standpoint. So I'll put team discipline as the disgruntled on my side.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, even though it is a bit of a cop-out, because it was the most frustrating aspect of this game, right? And there's no one coach you can pin that on. There's no one real thing you can pin that on. This was the first game, like I said, every week, I take my notes and kind of jot down a chart over who had positive plays and negative plays. This is the first week where I've had very few negative plays. I know that some will appear when we watch the film, they get a closer look, but I ended up just going with Zoe just because I felt like that was a player that kind of signified the penalty frustration that I had on the special teams penalties, which to me are some of the most frustrating ones. And then my runner-up would have been Ed Oliver just for that, them getting points. I really do blame him for that, but he made up for it with a really nice sack there, putting them back on the goal line. So he got out of the contention there. So nothing against Zoe. I actually thought Zoe had a pretty nice game today when he was in. And I love him as a player and nothing against him, but he kind of signified the penalty problem for me today. So he's getting that for me.
And it was so funny seeing him on the sideline, like debating with the coaches, trying to explain why. No. You see, it wasn't really. It was funny to sit to
it's
see.
Like
it
me
like
and my explain to my wife why everything's gone in the fridge. Like I don't know. Stuff. Yeah.
See, let me explain. So all right, let's take a look at the good side of the ball. And this was where it was a lot harder. And I want to shout out a handful of people in that. I think you could have picked several defensive players that you saw flying around the ball. I think Trey White could have been mentioned. I think Shaq Lawson could have been mentioned. I thought there was a lot of really positive things across the board. I think the offensive line could have got a shout out for the dominant performance they put up from a rushing standpoint. I'm going to go with Cole Beasley because I thought that he really had been waiting for a game like this to lead the team in targets, 6 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown, a critical kind of back-breaking touchdown where, I think if they held us to another field goal on that drive and would have felt like they were still right in it and keeping it close enough to be, competitive, and putting it to 13-0, I think really emphasized where we were at, and it made it that their freebie field goal that they got 13-3 was still a lot different perception wise than 9-3, and I really think that play was a huge play for the game. So I think a lot of people could have deserved the player of the game and my Gruntled award, but I'm going to go with Cole Beasley.
That's not a bad choice. He would have been on the list for me. I really wanted to give this one to Matt Milano today. I thought he had a great game. I really loved how he flashed. He was so close to getting it last week too, had Elam not played the way he did. So part of me just really wanted to give it to him. But at the end of the day, I'm going kind of outside the statistics of this particular game and more to the historical football context that we saw today. And Frank Gore going over, passing Barry Sanders, all-time NFL rusher. It's an incredible feat. Yeah. And just as a sports fan, not even as a Buffalo Bills fan, but being able to know where I was watching that game is super cool. That I could say that I saw a record-breaking performance, and just it couldn't happen to a better guy. He's been nothing but a great guy for this team, for Devin Singletary's progress that we're seeing coming out to the field here. But he also had a pretty good game when he got his touches. It was probably his best game since the New England game for him. So it's nice to see him get a little juice back, because I think he is needed if they're going to be rushing the ball quite a bit to spell Devin Singletary. So he had a nice game, and I just couldn't be happier for him to finally get that and pass Barry Sanders, because that's incredible. Any day that you pass Barry Sanders in anything is a fantastic day for you and your family.
Oh, yeah. Someone my age, anyone who grew up there, watching football every Sunday in the 90s, Barry Sanders was easily my favorite non-Buffalo Bill. He was my favorite player to watch the entire time, always rooted for him. It was easy because they were in the other conference and never really came up against the Bills, never had any reason not to. I always got in those arguments with people about, Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders, and that Barry Sanders would have ran for 2,500 yards behind some of those Cowboys offensive lines. And that the fact that Frank Gore passed Barry Sanders in an all-time rushing list, it just is unbelievable. It just speaks to, like you said, his character, his ability to take care of his body. I can't ask for a better mentor for Devin Singletary specifically, and for the young guys on this roster to see one of the highest caliber professionals to ever approach this game, how he takes care of himself, how he does that, how he grinds every day. When I was out there in Carolina at the joint practices, first one out on the field, doing all kinds of high-end crazy stretches. When I was there in Detroit for the preseason game, out there ahead of a preseason game that he didn't care about, going through a full lather workout before the game to get his body ready, and just having people be able to watch that game in and game out. Good for him. God bless him. And I, for one, he's not the flashiest or most exciting guy. I'm glad he's on our team for more reasons than just on the field.
Yeah, I think it's he doesn't get enough of the talk that a guy like Tom Brady does. I know Tom Brady is obviously one of the best at his position ever. I'm not saying in that sense. I'm saying in the sense of the longevity and doing what he's doing at his age. Everybody wants to talk about Tom Brady at 40 years old.
We need the Frank Gore method.
Yeah, what I think it's more impressive what Frank Gore's done, because of not only the style at which he plays the running back position, but the running back position in general is one of the lower longevity positions in the NFL. So for him to have this type of longevity and to still produce at his age, I think is unbelievable, and it should be talked about more. Tom Brady doesn't get hit nearly as often as Frank Gore looks for contact, man. He's still out there just trying to hit somebody. So it's unbelievable that he's been able to do it this long with that type of style. I think that needs to be talked about more.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that he got it, and it wasn't a cheapie. It was 15 carries for 65 yards, 4+ yards
one
of
with a
carry.
nice burst, man. He looked
27-yard run. He had a toxic differential, but positive play. And having that kind of thing is great. Leah here in the chat is bringing up, wouldn't mind Frank Gore hanging around one more year. Both Lorenzo Alexander and Frank Gore are absolutely open invite spots. If they want to be back on this football team, I am glad to have them back on this football team and to welcome them back for one more year. It was the exact same discussion we had with Kyle Williams every year. That man is welcome on my football team every day of the week. If Frank Gore and Lorenzo Alexander want to play another year, they have a role on this team, and the amount of money you're talking about paying them for a depth position you would need anyways, I'd welcome them back and be happy to have them around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to bring them on back. I think people have made fun of the Sean McDermott and a lot of the, talking about blue collar and the process and leadership and all those things. And I think it really does matter. And I think they put a high priority on it. So I would even see them trying to convince those guys to stick around, not just saying, hey, this is an open invitation, but we'd like to have you as part of this moving forward and keeping these young players. Whenever you hear Sean McDermott talk about Frank Gore, he says that's great for Devin Singletary, but he talks about it as a focus for the entire team. It's not just a Devin Singletary leadership thing. We want everyone on our team to watch how he does what he does and emulate how he does that, be around that and see the production.
Absolutely. And I think it's, like you said, it's all you can ask for from a situation like this, and being able to set that up. So is there anything else you want to leave the people with on this fantastic Bills victory Sunday?
No, just a giant kind of suck it to all those those Broncos fans that were in my mentions this week, man. Our good friend Sal Capaccio had tagged me in a joke, and my notifications were just going and going for days because Sal's got way more burn than I do on anything I say. So I DM'd him. I said, dude, you can't tag me and stuff like that again, man. It just went on for days, but I'm happy that he did, because now I have all the receipts and I can go back and have fun for the rest of the night.
Oh, there's so many receipts. There's so many it was, like I said, I went into this genuinely respecting the Broncos. I was worried about this game. Both I did not feel like it was going to be some dominant blowout. They were a good team, and they had good pieces of their team, and I was worried about the run game and all the different pieces there. But their fans were so weirdly cocky and just felt like they were like openly the better team, clearly, and it was just so weird. So I'm gonna have some fun tonight on Twitter, so if you guys follow me, brace yourselves. I'm gonna be real petty for a couple hours here. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But Aaron, where can the people find you if they want to enjoy in that kind of frolicking?
This would be a good week probably to follow me. I'm in a good mood. The Bills are 8-3. I think that me and the stats only guys are probably going to get along for the most part. So come and follow me at Aaron Quinn 716. I'll probably be on the best behavior you'll ever see me on. So this would be a good week to come and take a test drive.
Come and find me at Greg Thompsett, GregTompsett. Having a ton of fun, being able to go back and forth, going to be real petty. You guys will see us coming back here this week. We're still ironing things out, whether we'll go Tuesday night or Wednesday night to do the preview for the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving. And then we'll talk back and forth on exactly how we're going to do the Thanksgiving show, if we do one right afterwards or if it might be a little bit later. Obviously, we know people have family responsibilities here and there, but we will definitely get back with you guys after that fun, and you guys can enjoy it here. If you're listening live, we have the Cowboys going against Patriots right now, and give you some scouting to be able to watch for, and everybody else will see this after when they hear it. But enjoy your victory Monday. Enjoy this game. This is great. The Bills are 8-3 for the first time in 23 years, and that's a fun time to be a Bills fan. So
absolutely.
You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.